if you watch cartoons like G.I. Joe, they might teach you like, hey, don't be a bad person, blah, blah, blah. Or if you watch like a Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball Z, it'll teach you, you learn core values through fiction. And a lot of people have learned some of their core values through the usage of fiction. You can tie the real world into the fake world. There's a distinction. I have a sneaking feeling that I'm not autistic, right? I don't think so. I have a sneaking suspicion that I might have ADHD, you know? And I think the reason why I might not have recognized it is because I was around a bunch of other people who also have it. So I just thought that was the normal. But like, I think like when it comes to the video game community and anime and weebs and shit, I feel like we all have like, we probably all like each other, have similarities because we probably all are like, our brainwaves might be kind of close. I have ADHD, but my son is autistic and has ADHD. Yeah, I might have it. So you guys want to hear something freaking crazy? It might be too early to blow your minds, but I kind of accidentally blew my mind yesterday. Do you guys want to go on a journey with me really fast? Chat, would you like to go on a small journey with me? I need to share with you guys some of my, I have to share something with you guys. So I'm becoming more self-aware, right? I think I've talked about this a lot. I mean self-aware, I mean it in a figurative sense. And I've been coming to a lot of realizations really quickly, and I was trying to figure out what was happening, right? Like, what the hell? Am I stupid? Why am I now putting these things together? Imagine you live in life in a way where you get it, but there are just things you didn't see that didn't make everything connect. I'm connecting everything quickly, all at once, all of a sudden. Self-awareness is making me see things much more clearly. Anyway, I think it's because I didn't touch enough grass growing up as a kid. And a lot of you who are watching this might be in that same place because it's 9 a.m. and you're watching a stream with me, and I barely stream, so you might be chronically online as well. Okay, so so hear me out, because some of you might have already come to this awakening, and some of you may come into it later. And I'm gonna tell you, this joint is crazy. Like, so I have a therapist, right? And my therapist recommends that I do self-journaling with ChatGPT. So I use ChatGPT strictly just for like journaling my thoughts or whatever, and kind of like looking for definitions for things and kind of like brainstorming or whatever. And my therapist literally tells me to use it as a what is it called? Just a place to journal, essentially. Because I like to talk, and I don't like to talk into the abyss. I like to have conversations. So ChatGPT is good for that. Anyway, so I had asked it a question, right? And I said, what do you think about people who learned life through reality versus someone who learned about life through fiction, right? And the reason why I asked it is because I realized I've been meeting people in my life, and I know people in my life who don't, like, they weren't raised on cartoons or anime or like fantasy, right? They watch people. So they wake up and their consumption is like reality TV, interactions between human beings. They might watch like how people socialize. They observe human life. They're in the real world. Like they watch real things as opposed to being out into the cyber world or the fantasy or the fiction. They're into nonfiction, even if you call reality TV fiction. You know what I mean? You get to observe human behavior. You get to see how they process emotions, thoughts, feelings, blah, blah, blah. And it's a different type of thing when you do that for your entirety of your life, right? So it reads here, okay? Hang on with me. This is some crazy shit, okay? There's a profound difference between people who learn about life through reality and those who primarily absorb their understanding of life through fiction. And it shapes how they perceive the world, relationships, and even themselves, okay? How they perceive the world, relationships, and themselves. This is a big deal, okay? So there are reality learners. People who learn through direct experience tend to develop a pragmatic, adaptive approach to life. They have felt the weight of real consequences, dealt with unpredictable human behavior, and often have a nuanced, sometimes cynical view of the world. These individuals understand that, number one, emotions don't always follow a script, that people are complex, contradictory, and unpredictable, and that things like love, success, and personal growth are often messy, nonlinear processes. Now, this part right here, I think, is the reason why a lot of people jump into the fiction world. I think a lot of us at one point in time were reality learners, and in our reality sucked. so we sought refuge in fantasy. We saw it in music. We saw it in video games, cartoons. We escaped. And just because cartoons is just really fun. But a lot of us used, fantasy and fiction to kind of escape from the real world, because we learned early that the real world is garbage. Right? So we would just get the hell out of here, right? And we might have stayed out of it too much. The past was kind of bad for a lot of us. Anyway, it reads, their wisdom is earned through hardship, trial and error, and direct engagement with life. They may not always be able to articulate their knowledge in theoretical terms, but they understand how things actually work rather than how they should work, okay? So those are just, this is the real world people. So that's reality learners, okay? You follow me so far, chat? Couldn't escape reality back in the day like nowadays? Yeah, in the back in the day, your reality was just going outside. Like, you want to escape? Go outside and touch grass. That was quite literally before the internet type shit. Anyway, or video games. So then there's fiction learners, okay? This is going to be a lot of you, so pay attention. Those who primarily learn about life through stories, whether it's through books, movies, anime, or video games, okay? Often develop an idealized, abstract, or romanticized perspective, okay? So people who watch a lot of fantasy, you learn about how life works through an abstract, idealized, or romanticized perspective. If you think about shows that you watch, it's imitating real life, but it's like a trope, that's just kind of like what they do. That's how TV works. Like it mimics how human beings actually live, and it takes a certain type of dynamic, whether it's like dating or school or growing up or the workforce or whatever, whatever. It takes those things. Fiction organizes chaos into structured narratives, often with clear causes and effects, moral lessons, and satisfying resolutions. This can be beneficial because it provides a framework to understand emotions, relationships, and conflicts. So if you watch cartoons like G.I. Joe, they might teach you hey, don't be a bad person, blah, blah, blah. Or if you watch a Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball Z, it'll teach you, you learn core values through fiction. And a lot of people have learned some of their core values through the usage of fiction. You can tie the real world into the fake world. There's a distinction. But an overabundance of spending your time in the fantasy world without the balance of being in the real world can have a very strong effect on you, right? Very powerful. You might not realize how powerful it is until you go back to the other side. Anyway, it says it can inspire deeper thinking, creativity, and emotional intelligence. So there's a lot of people who are into fiction who are very good at abstract thinking. You can think of ideals. You're not just face value. You can kind of see past what's directly in front of your face. You understand concepts at a much larger level sometimes, which I realized made me a figurative type of person. But yeah, deeper thinking, critical thinking, and you have emotional intelligence. It gives people access to a vast range of experiences that they might not have encountered firsthand. So when you watch anime or any kind of unrealistic show, you're presented with values, but in an unrealistic way. It's like Goku fighting Frieza on the planet, right? But you can still see the values that are being faced there, like courage or fear or temperament or justice, whatever. Those are things that are being poured into the anime, just in a different way. Almost there, okay? So these are the two things. However, the downside is that fiction often simplifies reality, and many people who only learn through fiction may struggle when real life doesn't follow a predictable arc. They might expect the good intentions always lead to good outcomes. I don't really think so. I think people have a realistic view about that. That love and friendship should be effortless or dramatic rather than requiring steady effort. Maybe. And then that major life realizations happen in a single moment rather than over years of slow change. This one is what happened to me. Major life realizations happening in a very strong single moment rather than over years of slow change. What I feel like I've been undergoing is lots and lots and lots of sudden realizations of things that I think I pretty much knew but didn't confirm or really didn't see all the way through, that are now compiling upon each other. So if you ever had a midlife crisis, whether you're in your 20s or your 30s, but if you had something where you realized that something was not real, it is real or something, it came to some discovery, had this eureka moment, there's a good chance that you might have been a person who consumed a lot of fiction. Whereas there's some people who live in the real world, so they continue to learn at a gradual pace there's no sudden eureka moment. They're just picking up crumbs daily because they're consuming real life pragmatically daily. So it says here, the best approach is to basically have both. Reality keeps people grounded while fiction expands perspective. So people who watch fiction, their perspective is probably large, and people who are reality are pretty grounded. They're very down to earth. What that word means is down to earth. Caramel Swirl, thanks for the 38 months. My girlfriend consumed romance anime manga until we got together, and it really messed up her perspective on real life relationships. Yes, e-girls. Sorry if I don't know if there's any e-girls in the chat and any Hello Kitty girls, right? And Disney girls, okay? I'm a Disney girl. Think about how Disney girls and e-girls are created by watching shows like these romantic shows, and think about what it actually does, right? Like, and if you watch these Disney movies, they always portray women as like damsel in distresses that are just waiting to like for their prince, right, to come. Like, it's on their mind as like usually another man. Exception would probably be like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. She was her own shit. But a lot of these women are kind of like, oh man, I'm obsessed. I'm constantly thinking about him. And it makes women kind of think like, I should be thinking about a man, right? And then if you also watch some of these cartoons, same thing, right? When you have love romance stories, these women are infatuated with a guy and they can't get him out of their mind. Therefore, there's a lot of women who kind of grow up with that brain where they're in other men's minds constantly nonstop. It creates something. It might not seem like it, but consumption of that enough, it does create a type of person. You are a product of your consumption and the behaviors you put around you. But yeah, anyway, good point.